Welcome back to the Smart Driving Cars podcast. Thanks for tuning in once again. This edition is made possible by CARTS, the Corporation for Automated Road Transportation Safety, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to safe and high-quality mobility for all. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alan Kornhauser. Hi, Alan.
Good morning, Fred.
Good morning. It is a good morning because we have with us once again
Absolutely.
Consumer Reports Manager of Vehicle Technology, Kelly Funkhouser. Hi, Kelly.
Hello.
Kelly, so great having you with us again.
I love coming back to you guys.
Kelly, you and your team have been making some headlines lately with a new active driving assistance evaluation report, test results, insights, and design recommendations. Tell us a bit more about the report and how the work was conducted.
So we've been doing this type of testing for several years now. We do it every 2 years because it's quite a large project and undertaking to do. But we started back in 2018 where we evaluated the named 4 systems on the market. So those are the systems that have the adaptive cruise control as well as the lane centering features. And so back then, the ones that were making all the headlines, right, of course, were Super Cruise and Autopilot and Pro Pilot and Pilot Assist. So those were the systems that we started with. Ever since then, we've done it every 2 years. So we did an evaluation back in 2020, and then we just did one this past year in 2022. Some of the differences that we've done in each of those evaluations. So like I said, the first one back in 2018, we had 4 systems. The one we did in 2020, what we looked at was trying to do a full market-wide comparison of the best available lane keeping or centering type of system on the market. And some of those vehicles didn't have true lane centering. But we just wanted to give consumers kind of the full breadth of the market information to inform their purchasing decisions. And then this past year, we did only systems that have truly lane centering capabilities. So we wanted to do more of an apples to apples type of comparison. And so this time around, we had a few smaller numbers. So we didn't include all of the systems like the Mazda and some of those others that really only have the lane keeping capability. But this time it was a more even playing field for all the systems.
Well, the big headline that came out of this, at least in the press, was Ford's BlueCruise ousts GM's Super Cruise as Consumer Reports' top-rated active driving assistance system. Tesla Autopilot fell to mid-pack as other high-tech systems improve. So that was a surprise to some, maybe. Not that folks at Ford, I'm sure.
Yeah, both parts of those, I think, were a little bit of a surprise to some. So the first part, BlueCruise, tops the charts, basically. So 2 years ago, we did not evaluate the BlueCruise system because it wasn't available to consumers. So the system that we evaluated from Ford and Lincoln 2 years ago was a different system with different capabilities. So it's not like their one system just all of a sudden had a dramatic improvement. It's basically an entirely different overhaul of a system. And yeah, really kind of what sets it apart is both that it performs well, but also has safeguards, such as the driver monitoring camera, which really ensures that the driver is, at a minimum awake and kind of looking towards the forward roadway, right? While the system is active so that they don't become easily distracted or complacent and things like that. So those are some of the reasons.
Can I ask sort of a little question in here, because the GM system is really constrained to the roads that they have gone and authorized this and tested it, whereas I think that the Ford system is more open on that. Did that play a role, and is that part of it? You think that the one jumped on top of the other?
Yeah, it played a little bit of a role. But really, the both systems are geofenced, right? So they are mapped to use on, certain areas or locations of roadways, right? And I just want to stress this / clarify this off the top is that we were not evaluating hands-free-ness. right? Systems that allow hands-free, the hands-free aspect of driving, things like that. That was not part of this testing. This testing was truly just a comparison of the two features, adaptive cruise control and lane centering. So yes, Alan, you're right. The Super Cruise is geofenced to only be able to work on portions of pre-mapped highways. Similar
Essentially
with,
all interstates right now, or maybe they've
right.
extended it somewhat, but whatever. I mean, but it's good. I mean, at least they
Yeah,
define it, and you try to turn it on when you're not there. It says no, thank you, which is really great.
exactly,
Which
which
is
is good.
which is what it should do, right? Right.
That's right. That's right. So for BlueCruise, kind of similarly, they allow hands-free driving on the highways. So within those same or similar zones, right, that are pre-mapped, they allow the drivers to take their hands off the wheel. Again, I'm not going to stress this enough. We weren't assessing the ability to take your hands off of the steering wheel whatsoever. In fact, taking your hands off the steering wheel or enabling or promoting drivers to take their hands off the steering wheel can come with its own risks, right? Of if you don't have another safeguard in place to ensure their hands remain at the ready, like you do with a driver monitoring camera to make sure their eyes are on the road, right? You need to have all these safeguards in. So again, not promoting, not part of the test. So yeah, the BlueCruise can be used in more locations beyond these hands-free zones. So, on secondary roads or other types of roadways, you can turn it on. And during all of those times that it's active, the camera is also active as well.
And it's monitoring you, and you don't pay attention, then it, asks you for a note from your mother and puts you in the corner with a dunce cap, or however it
Yeah,
deals with
timeout.
it.
Exactly.
Timeout. Well,
Yeah.
it should. It should. Okay, whatever works for you, and so then, and in some sense, repeated should probably, get upped, and so on, because it must count these things. It must know. It knows.
Yeah.
It has the data. It can do it if it chose to do it. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. You can't totally, prevent a system from being abused or, misused in that type of way where if you get repeated warnings and prompts to stay engaged via whatever mechanism, right? After a certain number of those or amount of time, you should probably be, your toy should get taken away, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah. I
definitely
mean,
agree.
unfortunately, children have to be dealt with like children. Unfortunately, I guess, or I'm not a sociologist,
Yeah,
so therefore,
no,
I
but
have
I
nothing
do,
good to say here, right?
right. But I also don't want to conflate or confuse the idea that, a driver monitoring camera is either, a bad thing or anything like that. In fact, driver monitoring cameras are kind of really to benefit the driver, almost against the system that is in a way kind of setting them up to fail, right? If
Right,
there's no
right,
driver monitoring
absolutely.
camera, then, it's totally natural for all of us to, become distracted and tired and whatever, right? And so
Not
the
me,
camera
not me. I
helps.
would
Yeah,
never fall off the table. I mean, come on. I mean,
that's what
I
people
am,
say, but
yeah,
happens
of
to the best of
course.
us. Yeah.
It happens to the best of it. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we all need to behave on this, because in fact, really it is driver misbehavior that is the cause of most of our problems out there. And if we
Well,
didn't
I don't
misbehave,
know.
I mean,
No.
you
I
don't
don't
think
think
so?
that's true.
You
No,
don't think driver misbehavior is the cause? My darn
I
it. Go
don't.
ahead.
I
Okay.
don't. No,
We'll
I
deal
think
with that
that,
after. We'll deal with
yeah,
that in a minute. Okay.
yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. Yeah, the statistics of the human error, that 94% that far too many people love to throw around and blame drivers for, again, it's the design of these systems that enable or allow drivers to do these things, right? So if you have a system that has a safeguard like a camera to ensure that your
Right.
eyes are on the road, then you obviously can't take your eyes off the road, right? And
Absolutely.
so most of the systems out there that don't have one, right, they're enabling these types of behaviors. And I'm not even calling them, necessarily bad behaviors. I'm calling them human behaviors, right?
I'll call them
Okay,
bad
this
behaviors.
system, no, the
Go ahead.
system is performing well. It's doing a
The
good job.
system's great.
It
Yeah.
gets extra boring. We already drive, automatic cars and electric cars, right? Like there's not a whole lot to do to begin with. And now if the system is controlling the speed and the steering, there's far less to do, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You're not just going to, you're going to look for stimulation, right? And so it's not that it's necessarily bad behavior. It's that the design and implementation of these systems allow for that.
Yeah. It suckers
which
you
they
in.
shouldn't.
It suckers
They
you
shouldn't
in.
allow for it. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So Kelly, then what are your thoughts about the value of being able to take your hands off of the wheel and your feet off of the pedals? Is this a good thing to be promoting?
The idea of it is very appealing to a lot of people, especially if you haven't been in a vehicle where you can do that, right? It's like, oh yeah, I totally want to be able to do X, Y, and Z. But the reality, once you're in one, is that, you are in, maintain responsibility for that vehicle. You can't just take a nap. You can't just check out. So, the value of being able to take your hands and, feet off of controlling the vehicle, I don't think adds a lot of value, but I think it does add potential risk to, to the driver for, not being at the ready to take over when they are told they had to push, all of the little, I agree, whatever boxes just to get the car started. They agreed to take responsibility and to always pay attention. But if the car's setting them up to, get bored or whatever, and doesn't have an adequate safeguard in place to counter that, that's really not fair. That's foreseeable misuse of the system, right? That's not bad behavior. That's foreseeable.
Right. Your report says that some of the systems are designed in a way that may lull drivers into complacency, giving them a false impression that the car is handling everything on their behalf. And you point out that can be dangerous.
Exactly. Yep. And so, that's the key part of having these systems on vehicles. Now, again, I'm not against the system. I should clarify that, because I know I just said, what is the point of them? But the point is that they do make driving easier and less stressful. And I've personally, and many people have benefited from using these systems, right? Whether they provide additional headway from the adaptive cruise control, so you're not tailgating, whether, it's changing the speed for you as part of the adaptive cruise control, so you don't have to always get angry or like, oh, why aren't you going the same speed? It'll gracefully adjust the speed for you, and it can calm you down in stressful situations. And same with the lane centering component, right? Lane deviation and road departure type of crashes are a concern. And if these systems are designed to keep you in the lane, potentially those types of crashes will be reduced with further widespread adoption of the lane centering technology. So there are clear convenience and, less stressful type of benefits to these systems. But again, you have to make sure that the driver is able to respond and take over, especially because they're being asked to.
So I guess the question is, are we focused on safety or are we focused on convenience? And Alan and I have had this discussion for a long time now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think with respect to it is focused on safety and it is focused on convenience, and the big safety piece, as Consumer Report properly points out, is the oversight piece. So if you start, falling off the table, it keeps you on the table. I mean, it keeps you from hurting yourself is really what it does. And is it too much? Maybe, but probably not. You really shouldn't be doing that. This is, the act of driving is serious business because other people are involved, and these things kill. I mean, so this isn't. I don't know. Sometimes if you buy a marble, it says don't swallow it. Okay, yeah, whatever. You need those things on there. We now have in cars these yellow stickers that say don't put a child on the passenger seat. Well, heaven, when we designed the airbags, we had no idea that they would explode so hard and kill a kid in the passenger seat. Certainly wasn't. So, take care of
Right,
that. We
but
do
there's
those kinds of things. Go ahead, Kelly.
there's a nuance between putting in these warnings about the product malfunctioning or potential some of the risks with the product, but there's a difference between putting a product out there that a lot of people are using incorrectly, that creates an unsafe situation.
Mm-hmm.
In the United States, oftentimes products like that are recalled. Right? A manufacturer cannot put out a product with known dangers and known risks where people are foreseeably misusing their product in a dangerous way.
Absolutely.
They are responsible for designing it so that it is used in a safe way, or providing some sort of safeguard to protect against those foreseeable risks, right? Yeah. So yes, we have these, tap throughs on the vehicles. Pay attention. Okay, great, cool. But they also need to build in a mechanism to actually ensure that drivers are able to stay attentive and not foreseeably misuse. Now, again, I'm not talking about the abuse stuff, right? But becoming distracted, complacent, tired, bored, those are so extremely foreseeable. Like, there is decades and decades of literature on people getting bored watching paint dry, right? Like that's extremely foreseeable. And so, it definitely is the responsibility of the manufacturer to put in a safeguard when the product they're putting out has well-known risks.
So if we're going to go down this line, and I agree that this line of logic is absolutely necessary. Where does the throttle fit in, where it allows you to take that car substantially above the speed limit? And in fact, I've argued here, the speedometer in my car goes up to 220 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Now, it's a car that is driven on the Autobahn, great, and could be taken to Watkins Glen, great, but maybe it should be geofenced so that if it's there, then it shows up at 220. But should otherwise, maybe, I don't know. Of course, I like 9 over personally, and I shouldn't say that, but I do like 9. But the whole speed thing, at least in my perspective as just a citizen, has just gotten to be, I'll blame it on COVID, gotten to be just, to me, just worse in the last, since COVID. It was bad before. Now it's like nuts. Now maybe it's just here in Jersey on 295 or the Turnpike, where New Jersey Turnpike has a speed limit of 55 miles an hour.
Right.
You do 55 miles an hour when it's not congested, you're a danger on there. Okay.
I think it's mostly 65, but
no. I just went up to Newark to pick up my wife, Newark Airport. I just looked up at the sign. It said 55. I looked down on my speedometer. I won't say what I was doing.
That was probably a zone for something.
But I mean,
yeah.
it really, talk about. And I think the other sort of comment that I've made, a lot of people talk about hands-offness. To me, the whole value of this is feed-offness. The feed-offness to me is if I look only personally, I don't have anything to do with my hands except put them on the steering wheel, or at least one of them, most of the time. But my feet off those pedals and it maintains a speed or it maintains a gap, to me is like, talk about relief and pressure. Otherwise, I have to look down on my speedometer and then look up and then look down and then look up. And am I going right? And if I drifted, whatever. And it's the feet business that, at least personally to me, I don't know how it is to others. I don't know if you've investigated drivers and tried to look at which is more appealing to drivers, the hands-offness or the feet-offness at all. I haven't seen anybody that has done that. I'm sure somebody has. I just haven't seen it.
I haven't done any research into that, but I love adaptive cruise control. It's great.
Uh,
So yeah,
yeah,
it's
the
the
other
best part.
question I might ask that you might have looked at, or if, to what extent is it purchased, and to what extent once purchased is it used, and do you have any perspective going back to what I call stupid cruise control, which was, it was just the control of the throttle, not the control of the throttle and the brake, which is what intelligent, or whatever adaptive cruise control, whatever names it goes by, 15 different names,
Yeah.
but whatever that does. Do you have any insight on that? On
Um, yeah,
the
I
extent that
don't.
it is actually, my wife won't use it. Okay, drives me
Okay.
nuts.
Yeah.
I won't. I drive through Princeton with it on. Why?
And why
Because
doesn't she use it? What have you asked her why?
she doesn't get it. She doesn't feel she gets any benefit from it. She
Okay.
prefers that, it doesn't do it for her. It
Okay.
just doesn't do it
So
for her.
this is a good segue
Yeah,
back
yeah,
into Fred's mention of the other report
yeah.
that we put out in December, which
Right.
is the ADAS usability guidelines, right? And that is a behemoth of a document. Take your time, pace yourself if you're going to read it. But basically, what that is consumer data from our surveys and other research, methods that we have at Consumer Reports, where we have learned what consumers like and don't like, and what they use and they don't use, and all of these things, right? So we find that there are several different features that consumers shut off because they find them annoying, they don't understand them, they don't trust them, whatever. There's a litany of reasons why they may not use them, right? And so in order for any of the benefits, especially the active safety features, right? In order for any of those to be realized, we need to have consumers keeping them on and using them in their vehicles. But oftentimes what we find based on our data is that, a really good example is lane departure warning. A lot of people don't really like that feature because it's constantly beeping at them, or it's beeping at them and like they're like, I'm going straight or whatever, right? So it's too sensitive, or they don't know why it's beeping, or they can't turn the beep off and they want it to be a vibration, right? And so this document, actually, we looked at precisely what you were, maybe your wife has some feelings in there beyond just, I don't have benefit, she might even be able to say, well, I don't trust it, or I don't find maybe the following distance to be comfortable or suitable, right? Maybe she likes to be further away, and that is a setting that's not offered. Maybe she likes to be closer because cars are continually cutting in front of her and it's just making her upset, right? So, all of those reasons are captured in data that we have and basically used to create this document to help the manufacturers basically design better ADAS so that people will want to use them, will understand what they do, what they don't do, and then will benefit from them.
Yeah, well, on the lane departure, at least I have one recommendation to it's just not smart enough. Okay, it shouldn't be. This isn't a bang bang thing. You depart a lane or don't depart a lane. It's not that easy. It's in places there's a car parked too far, whatever, and you almost have to depart the lane. You don't want this
Right.
darn thing beeping at you. It should know that. It
Right.
it really has the information to know it. It just hasn't implemented it. But if you cross a double line and there's a car coming the other way, the darn thing should go nuts. Okay, and the problem is that the problem of what the manufacturers have done is that they haven't taken they've simplified the problem, put it out there, and the problem isn't simple. It really has many different dimensions, which I guess I'd like to discuss with you is your thoughts, because part of what you do is make recommendations, and I'll see if you make some recommendations, because when I make them, nobody pays attention to me, but whatever.
Yeah, you
There,
got to
there,
write this
there's
like really
there,
long paper, and then everyone will hate to read it, and then they'll know. Yeah.
there are a couple, I like to point out that there are a couple good things that are basically on all the time in the vehicle, and it's really hard to shut them off. It's the analog brakes, and it's the electronic stability control. Okay,
hmm
you can turn off the electronic stability control if you're stuck in sand or Alabama mud or something like that. I guess you can turn it off, but those
hmm
things are on all the time because I guess NHTSA finally got around to it saying, these things are really valuable and they're all on all the time.
Yeah.
I'd even suggest that the Ford system, the GM system, maybe all the way down to the Tesla system should be on all the time.
But
It shouldn't allow us. It should not allow us to tailgate. It should not allow us to speed excessively. They shouldn't. In my opinion. You may not
so
want to be there, but
there's a
yeah, go
big
ahead.
difference though, Alan, between the stability control and anti-lock brake systems, right? So first of all, those are systems that only activate when you need them most, when you are
Right,
skidding out or you are slamming on the brake really
right,
hard, right? So they're not coming on as some sort of an annoyance or nuisance, right?
right,
They're also tuned very, very well, right? If there
right.
were a tuning issue with these, everyone would know about it and the manufacturers would have to go and fix it, right?
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
these other features, these newer features are not tuned as well. And there's some that come on sometimes when a crash is not imminent, right? And so there is a huge difference between, having a system on all the time that maybe isn't providing benefit and could be annoying you versus these other ones. So yeah, I think there's a difference.
Of course, but the manufacturers have to get there because
Right.
then there is this automatic emergency braking system
Yep.
business, right? Which in some vehicles is on all the time. Okay, you hit 1.6 seconds to time to collision, and the thing goes nuts. Okay, luckily, we're not very often 1.6 seconds time to collision, and so it doesn't tend to go off, but it goes on completely going nuts.
Mhm.
Yet we also have these intelligent cruise control systems that just work really, I mean, my opinion, work really well. They gradually slow you down, they gradually speed you up, they whatever. So on the one hand, we have these systems that we get to turn on or not turn on or whatever. And then we have this other system buried someplace. And I don't think the two of them talk to each other. I don't think they do. Because, and darn it,
So,
they
Alan, let me tell
should.
you about this
Okay.
fun new feature that is coming to cars.
Great,
Okay.
great, great,
So
great, great,
there's
great.
there's not a standard name for it yet. Don't worry. It'll be
Okay.
in the next round of clearing the
Okay.
confusion. But essentially it's proactive braking assist. So maybe I just gave it its
Yeah.
name there.
Okay.
I don't know.
Great.
Okay,
Wonderful
so it's
name. Wonderful
basically,
name.
thank you. I like
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
think
No,
so.
no,
So
no.
it is this feature that is really coming on electric vehicles originally, but now we're starting to see it on hybrids and others too. Okay, so let me explain this feature. So it is basically without having adaptive cruise control on, it is using the forward facing radars to look at the vehicle in front of you. And before you would ever get a forward collision warning or automatic emergency braking, it knows that you're approaching this vehicle like adaptive cruise control at whatever rate of speed and you're encroaching on it, and it will apply its own braking. And if you've been in an electric car, it feels like regenerative braking has kicked in, right? So it starts to slow down the car gradually as you approach this. And some of them even will bring you all the way to a stop. I don't recommend it, but if you were to not apply your own braking, it's going to do that far enough in advance, again, proactively, right, to slow the car. And so it is very, very much like exactly what you were asking for, is like adaptive cruise control that's on all the time, but it is just looking for that car and keeping your headway. That's this feature, and I love it, and it's the best thing ever.
It's the best thing ever because why wait until all hell's about to break loose?
Right.
At 1.6 seconds, and then tighten my seatbelt, close the roof, put the bolster down so the engine doesn't come take my legs out, do all the stuff that they do,
Right.
apply the brakes like whatever.
Right.
When in I don't know what percentage of the cases they knew it was coming.
Right.
They knew these
Well,
things
yeah.
occur over time. Now, there are some in which the meteorite comes down in front of you and you don't have a chance, in which the moose jumps out of the woods and you don't have a chance. But the probability of those and the distribution of those accidents is way out on the tail. You've got the meat of the distribution in which you knew it was coming.
Right. So yes, automatic emergency braking as designed is supposed to be a last resort, right? Come on at the last second. By design, we don't want a lot of, phantom braking is what people are calling it, false activation type of stuff by design. But what you're saying is let's have another feature, right? That does it earlier.
I want another feature.
Don't worry, there are people
Bring
that
these
have done
two
it because
things
it's on cars
together.
now. It's there. It's real.
Have one talk to each other.
It's
and
real.
Of course, the other thing that drives me nuts, which I think we've talked about before with the intelligent cruise control or whatever we call it, is if I tap the brake, it turns the whole darn thing off. And that drives me nuts because at least maybe I'm just the one occurrence in the whole population, 7 billion people of the world, that if I touch the brake, it doesn't mean turn off the brake. It means turn off the acceleration. Okay? I don't want to go as fast. But if I need to go slower than what I'm at in that brake, help me out here. Don't just, hey, you got it. Here's the hot potato. You take it. I mean, how could they possibly implement a system like that? It seems to me, and this is what they've done, and it drives me nuts.
Is this new system that you're talking about, Kelly, is that going to do what Alan wants to do here then?
Kind of. So it basically, without having adaptive cruise control on, say you're, city driving or stop and go even, right? And you don't have adaptive cruise control on. So it is using the radars and cameras and other sensors, right, forward facing to look for that vehicle. And it starts recognizing it way further back than the, automatic emergency braking, right? And so it comes on very, very gradually. And so you can almost feel a little bit of the response of the brake coming on, which in itself is good because it is almost like a kinesthetic warning, right? Of something is changing, the vehicle is slowing down, but it's not abrupt enough to be intrusive. And it basically kind of ramps up the braking power as you get closer to that vehicle. If you were to, say that car is going to, turn out of your way and you push the accelerator, it's not going to prohibit or inhibit in any way you using the accelerator pedal. And also same with the brake, right? If you want to apply your own braking, great. It's just an additional kind of early warning braking system as you approach. You are still in full control of both acceleration and braking.
But if I don't brake enough, just because I hit the brake, don't all of a sudden take over the darn thing and say, hey, we're not braking anymore. You've got to continue to monitor, and if it needs more brake, then apply more brake. And if I don't want to apply the brake, I'll hit the gas. Okay, I'll override it that way. You want to give the driver the opportunity to override. Why? Because the driver's, I'm king. I'm king of the road. You can't sell me a product that doesn't make me king of the road. I'll send it back. I agree with that. But darn
no,
it.
but this one does exactly that. It continues to brake. If you were to take your foot off the brake pedal and you're still approaching that vehicle, it will continue to brake.
When you test it, please make sure you test that. Okay.
Oh, I will. Yes.
Seriously, because to me it's such an oversight with intelligent cruise control that if I tap the brake, it then says, "Oh, okay, it's yours. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
It's your problem now. Both acceleration, braking, it's yours. Yeah. Come on." Okay.
Kelly, do you have a handle on when we're likely to start seeing this?
So we are seeing it now. So it's in Audi. We've got it in one of our Porsches, electric vehicles. These are mostly, again, Toyotas have it. There's a handful of those. So again, mostly electric vehicles because it is actually in those vehicles using the regen, right? But even in some of the hybrids, so we have a Toyota hybrid right now that has it. So I'm guessing that we're going to start to see it in non-electrics, right? So gas powered as well, where they're just using the actual, disc brakes or engine braking really to slow the vehicle. So it is out there on quite a handful of cars already. And so, yeah, I have my eyes on it. I think that it's definitely a potential safety feature I think it's amazing. You don't have to have adaptive cruise control on to do it. And the best part is that it is truly so subtle that it's non-intrusive. So yeah, I'm starting to keep a log of which cars have it, and I'll be, probably doing some testing on it, and definitely going to standardize what we call it, the term for it, eventually as well. So yeah, it's kind of the thing I'm watching most.
So, but again, if I can make a recommend, please make
Mhm.
sure that if the action is tap a brake, it deals with the acceleration part of it, not the braking part of it. Okay. Certainly apply the brake, but if it thinks it needs more brake, it shouldn't say, "Hey, Alan, tap the brakes. It's on him. Let him do
Right.
the braking."
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I'm afraid I may not be braking enough.
Yep.
And I would like to have this stuff in here if it thinks, just like when it hits the automated emergency braking system. Oh my goodness, you're 1.6 seconds to collision.
Yep.
You are in deep caca. Okay,
Yeah.
help
No,
me out
I'll
here.
have to
I
I'll
need
have to
help.
come
I
back
need
on
help.
and
I need help.
yeah,
Okay. I
I'll
mean,
have to come
that's
back on and tell you about
okay.
what we
Yes.
see
No,
from it.
we
Because
would
yeah,
we would love to have you on that.
yeah.
Absolutely. What do you think um, with respect to if you have intelligent cruise control on? Should there be a light or some mechanism on the vehicle that lets other people know in the stream of cars what mode you're controlling the vehicle in? Are you controlling the vehicle in a human mode or in a you know algorithmic mode?
I don't think
Where do
there's
you?
I don't think there's a benefit to either the occupants of that vehicle or the surrounding ones. I can see some potential negatives of people wanting to kind of mess with it, right? So if they see some of these, you know, Waymos and cruises and Ubers or whatever out in the streets, there are a lot of documentation and reports of people trying to, oh, I'm just going to jump out in front of it. And, oh, I'm going to try to do something to see how it behaves. And that can become an issue, right? And so, telling that, broadcasting that definitely has a concern. I'm not sure what benefit it would have to other drivers by broadcasting what mode it is in, because ideally that vehicle should still be following the rules of the road, and of course rules of the road sometimes being customary rules of the road too, beyond just the laws. And so if it's not behaving in a way that is expected of it, that's its own problem. And I don't think having a special light on it gives an excuse or anything else. I don't really see the benefit.
So the reason why I suggest this is I happen to drive the Pennsylvania Turnpike every once in a while, which is
Mm-hmm.
one of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And a dominant mode of human driving is the constant accelerator depression mode. Okay, in which you rest your foot on the accelerator and leave it there. And what that does is you go slow up the hills and fast down the hills, and you're going up and down. Whereas if the car is operating in a constant speed mode, which is basically what the intelligent cruise control mode is, that doesn't happen. So you're not sitting there, do I pass this vehicle and let it pass me or whatever, and so on and so forth, or do I just, hey, it's going constant speed and I'll just relax in behind it and whatever. It's not playing this game or whatever. And to me, it's just the other aspect of that, and the other reason why I sort of pointed out is that if one looks at the express buses operating into and out of New Jersey to the New Port Authority bus terminal and so on, they happen to have in the back backup lights, brake lights, and up here white lights. And what the white lights tell the basically, I think the buses on the exclusive bus lane going in there tell it that this is the driver has taken his or her foot off the accelerator. okay? So that it's now not going constant speed anymore, or not really varying speed. It would be by incline or whatever. It's basically reducing speed because of drag, okay? And it provides, I think, the reason it's there is it provides the trailing vehicle some information instantaneously because of the light of what the vehicle ahead is about to do. I mean, if the brake lights come on, you instantaneously, at the speed of light, it goes into your brain, the vehicle ahead is going to start decelerating, okay? Until the brake lights go on, and it's really the function of either drag or the accelerator. And there is some I think some valued information that is provided to the vehicles around, basically give you a glimpse into the future behavior of this vehicle. Is it going to operate mainly because of what grade you're on, or is it going to operate mainly because of what speed it's been set on? So that would be the virtue of having a light, or passing that information out to the other folks. Now, yes, there is this, I'm going to play games. I'm going to be a 13-year-old. I've got nothing better to do. But that seems to me to be, well, I don't know. An
Yeah, it's an interesting
unfortunate piece.
idea.
Nothing
Yeah,
is perfect, of course, but
yeah.
I think there is information, and there's valuable information that would benefit other people around, so that, hey, this car's on cruise control. I happen to set mine at 64 miles an hour. She said hers at 63. What's the difference? I'll just sit there and follow, okay? But it's not going to be that a normal driver behavior is under normal control is really not very pretty when you actually look at it, okay? There are all sorts of distractions that go on, that the person speeds up, slows down, do for who knows what, speaking over here, whereas if it's an algorithm doing this, a lot of that variability is taken out of that driving
Right,
thing, I
right, right.
think. Okay. And I
Yeah, no,
haven't seen
it's an
anybody,
interesting
I
idea.
haven't seen anybody really. I haven't done it. Maybe I should have tested it. Anyway, I'm throwing that into you. Take a look at, think about that. I mean, that's what you guys do very well, and I'm just throwing it out there as a
Yeah, no,
potential
I mean,
suggestion.
yeah, it's definitely an interesting idea, and I can see that that information, it could be helpful for sure. I'd have to look at what the cost benefit is, right? Like, are there a lot of accidents that are happening because of not having that light, and then
Probably not.
cost?
Probably
Yeah,
they're
yeah. So
probably not.
there's probably
I
a
mean,
reason.
it's a comfort and convenience or something, and
Yeah.
I've proposed it. The informal response I've gotten out of NHTSA from this is that they just don't want any other lights on a vehicle. Okay, they don't want to
Mhm.
confuse
Right.
people. They
It
don't
could,
want,
exactly. It
yeah,
could have
and so on and so
unintended
forth.
consequences. Right.
There are
Right.
those
Right.
things, but yet now we have, I don't know, 13 different brake lights on the back of a vehicle. I don't know how many they. No, I guess it's only 3, but they decide to stick another one, and it just seemed that what motivates me most about this is the interesting piece of these express buses that use the XBL, going to the Port Authority bus terminal, that tend to have these other lights on there. Anyway,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. I had never heard of that, so maybe I'll look it up
whatever.
and do some
Yeah.
reading. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yep.
just an observation from riding up and down the New Jersey Turnpike, I guess. Whatever. Um,
Terrific. Kelly, any other thoughts about what vehicle makers are getting right or really getting wrong? Any observations?
Yeah, and Alan probably would vehemently agree with me, but basically the idea of driver collaboration, right? So we see some of these systems that, notably, Super Cruise and Autopilot, and actually Rivian as well, actually do not allow the driver to collaboratively steer with the vehicle within the lane while remaining active, right? So, of course, there's different types of disengagements where Autopilot and the Rivian, if you steer, it essentially shuts itself off. But essentially the same thing happens with Super Cruise, where if you steer within the lane, it shuts itself off into this standby mode, which arguably could be a worse than just shutting itself off. And so that creates this perception for the drivers of, well, either the system's doing it or I'm doing it, but it can't be both. I can't steer with the system to avoid a pothole or to reposition within the lane to give breadth to surrounding traffic or anything like that. And so it creates this, the system's doing it, which can lead to, going down that path of, well, I'll just do something else because the system's got this, right? And it can, expedite the complacency and over reliance on the system. So yeah, the biggest thing is the systems that allow for that, actually, promote drivers to not get themselves into some sort of, tricky situations or just see what the system is going to do before intervening, because they aren't penalized for doing so.
Right, and you specifically knocked, I think, Tesla and Mercedes for giving drivers, I guess, too much leeway to not be paying attention.
Yeah, that's right. So we counted, we timed how long the driver can either, depending on the system, have their eyes or hands off before getting an audible warning. And so, audible, because if you're falling asleep or distracted, the visual doesn't do a whole lot of good. So we counted to the first audible one. And yeah, those systems, 30 seconds in some cases, right? That's a whole lot of time for a driver to not be paying attention and looking at the road, or have their hands on the wheel before giving that type of a warning to drivers. So yeah, they got knocked for that one for sure.
Sort of my personal view is that hands on the wheel is one indication of whether or not you're paying attention. I mean, the eye
Maybe.
trackers are really there.
Exactly.
I know you can probably put a prism in front of the camera and so on, and show a picture of someone with their eyes right straight at, and you can fake your way around it. The way, the torque on the wheel, you hang a, there,
Right.
you go to the web, you find. Unfortunately, who knows how many ways to cheat.
Well, it's not even just having
it's
these
really
like defeat. It's not even going as far as having a defeat device or mechanism hanging something on the wheel, right? We've seen, and Consumer Reports were part of the MIT AVT Advanced Vehicle Technology Consortium. And in part of our research, we have seen, because we have all of our vehicles are rigged up with video equipment. We've seen drivers in a Tesla where they will be completely, doing whatever they're doing on their phone, looking down here. And then out of the corner of their eye, they see on the screen, whether it's a center screen or wherever, the, blue light starting to flash, which means put your hands, torque the wheel, right? They see that, they reach over and they'll nudge the wheel a little bit, satisfy the warning, go back to what they were doing, all the while not once ever putting their eyes on the road. So it's not even about the defeat devices. It's that it's an absolutely just inadequate way to ensure that the driver is paying attention.
Totally inadequate. It's totally inadequate. And when GM first came out with the eye tracker, I think everybody said this is the best thing since sliced bread with respect to this. I mean, you look, you have, even though the manual says it 14 times over and so on, you have to pay attention.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
With these systems, all of them, none of them today are good enough. Okay. And they're not good enough for 30 seconds unless, they can do 30 seconons in some places and so on. But the
problem is they'll reliably do it for all the times until it doesn't.
Until it doesn't.
Exactly.
And you don't have to drive too far until you hit it doesn't. And guess what? Either you're dead, somebody else is dead, or you're both dead. I mean, this is serious business, okay? And it's supposed to be a right, not a. It's supposed to be a privilege. I almost said it inversely, not a right to drive. It's a privilege to go out there and do it for yourself so easily and so well, to have all that mobility. But you're putting a whole bunch of folks at risk in doing this. and and the size of the vehicles is like, I mean, to me, one of the worst things of EVs. I mean, how's it letting tanks come back out on the road? I mean, the Hummers. I mean, bring back the Hummer. Never. I don't want you to comment on that. That's my comment. I know you don't agree and whatever, but and I don't know. Please don't say it. You don't really. You know. I mean, you got to be. We have to be driving tanks out there to get from A to B. Just it's like, man, they kill people.
Yep. There's a lot of safety stuff going on cars, but there's also, the size of cars, the hood height of vehicles are definitely increasing. So there's a lot of new concerns being introduced as well, for sure.
On one of the since we've been talking about automatic rear emergency braking, backup emergency brake, really good systems, aren't they? Or you've looked at them, right?
Well, again,
backup
so
systems.
just like with all of the other systems, we have consumer data to say what is good, what they don't like, if they like the beeping, if they like the vibrate, if they turn it off, right? And so, we definitely have data on those systems as well. They can be good, but they can also be annoying. Especially in trucks, right? If you put the tailgate down, now the camera is facing the ground, so it's kind of useless. I know personally in my driveway, I kind of have to I have to back out of my garage because my garage is a side load one to my house. So I have to kind of back out of it one way and then pull straight to go forward out the driveway. And I have a potted plant. And, in the summer when it's big and, very leafy and foliage, it wants to break me way in advance, right? So they've got their pros and cons for sure, just like all of the ADAS.
Yeah, like all. But again, your one's not going all that fast. One does, and I guess I don't know whether the data's out there as to how many kids it saved, but it must have saved a ton of kids who just happened to be whatever.
And a few bicycles too, perhaps.
Yeah.
So on and so forth. But you're not going all that fast, and of course they're on all the time, and it's kind of nice that they're on all the whatever, at least my opinion of it, and so on.
Terrific, Kelly. Consumer Reports is also out with a new report on the latest vehicle owner satisfaction. We just want to touch on that for a second. That wasn't, I guess, your department necessarily, but scoring highest there, the Chevy Corvette, which might make Alan smile.
Yeah.
No,
That's probably one of my favorite cars too.
You don't have one, but you like
I think I would love to have one, but again, I need one. You had one and you sold it?
Yeah, we had it as a test car, right? We had a C8, the mid-engine Stingray. It was red. Oh, I've taken the top. It's a convertible red Corvette, right?
You should have had an orange with the black stripe.
No, the red was good.
No.
It was so good driving that around. Yeah, we finally had to give that up. A lot of people cried when that one went. But yeah. I agree. That is a very satisfying car.
It's a beautiful vehicle, but like I need one of those like I need a hole in the head. I mean,
so good.
I'm too old, unfortunately, I guess.
A couple of quick headlines, Alan, from the latest Smart Driving Cars newsletter. Navya announcing the opening of a receivership procedure. You had a comment there?
Yeah, well, wannabe driverless shuttles don't have a chance.
Axios is reporting that fully autonomous passenger planes are inching closer to takeoff. That's the headline, but the article does say nobody is suggesting human pilots will entirely disappear anytime soon.
I mean, what's the matter with people writing headlines? I mean, they all want to be Elon Musk. I mean, use the word fully. I got to use the word fully. I mean, come on. Do you have any idea what the pilots union would do?
They are pushing back against the idea of the FAA being able to reduce the number of pilots in the cabin to one. They don't want that.
Well, of course not. Say the railroads are the same way. Okay, I mean, whatever. So we're nowhere near. Aren't going to be. It's not going to be in my lifetime. Probably not my kid's lifetime, probably not my grandkid's lifetime, whatever. I don't know.
You highlight a New York Times piece headlined, "A Fight Against Sludge." Sludge meaning fees and such. I think the president touched on this.
I think the president, I don't know, man. You almost have to love Biden for putting that out there. I mean, it's just amazing. You go to the Frontier Airlines site, $19 flights. By the time you actually, get on the airplane, it's at least 10x. So I mean, I understand, and the best part about that is, of course, they recommend a reading of Daniel Kahneman's book, which everybody should read. Think Fast, Slow, and Whatever.
You highlight also a piece about from Mobileye, really. There's a post that's headlined Defining a New Taxonomy for Consumer Autonomous Vehicles. This is from their CEO and CTO, Alan, advocating simpler language to define autonomy levels.
What have we been doing for 11 years or more, Fred? I mean, it's just like, come on, it's levels. I mean, next thing
instead of level 1, etc., they suggest, I think, eyes on, eyes off, hands on, hands off, driver versus no driver.
Yeah, all that stuff. It's still, as we've already talked about it. I think the feet on, feet off to me is the key piece. The hands on, hands off. I mean, put your hands on the wheel, okay? And probably, I don't know, maybe Kelly, you can, to avoid stuff, you want to hit the brakes. Swerving is generally, I think, not a good idea, because I mean,
right?
Sure, but I think in the thought process is, oh my goodness, I am between a rock and a hard place. Okay, to me, the initial reaction better be hit the darn brakes. And then when that's not going to work, then sort of look around as to whether I can miss it to the right or to the left. And I think that the ordering process is really important. And so, the key thing is the feet on, feet off, and the hands, Anyway, that's a personal thing. Sorry.
And since it is coming up, we'll throw this in. The Super Bowl host committee has named Waymo its official autonomous technology partner.
Okay. Great. I don't know. I'm not going to comment. They already don't like me, so right. I'm not gonna comment. So because all I'm going to do is get myself into trouble. So.
And you're not at the Super Bowl because the Stillers aren't there.
The Stillers aren't there. And it's the crazy Eagle fans. I mean, you just never mind. I don't want to be there. I'm a Stiller fan, so anyway.
I watch the car commercials, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna. Yeah, well, I guess.
Anything you're looking forward to that you've heard about on the commercials coming up, the car commercials, Kelly?
Oh no, I'm definitely a critic of them as well. Like the Edward Scissorhands Super Cruise one, where you don't even need hands; you can have scissors. That's how hands off it is. Not great. So I will be scrutinizing them.
And then a couple years ago, what was it? Who was it that sort of had their car, because of the automated driving parking thing, squeeze in between two cars in Boston? They could squeeze in in a parking space between it.
Yeah. Smart Park.
Exactly. Hyundai. Yeah.
Hyundai. I mean, I'm thinking, you do that in Boston. You do that in Boston. You know what happens?
Yeah.
You don't have a windshield. Okay. You do that. You put your car in there with a shoehorn. We're taking it out with a sledgehammer. I mean, are you kidding? Get serious and come on.
Kelly, we can't thank you enough for spending time with us and taking on all of Alan's suggestions. It's just terrific.
No worries.
Thank you.
Kelly,
happy to be here. Thanks.
Love having you again. We try to make it a little light and so on. This is very serious business. Okay. And mobility, which just so improves our quality of life. We can't believe it. But boy, it comes with responsibility because things can get out of hand very quickly and just be very bad. So, it's nice to see all these good things helping us out. It's nice, trying to make it safer and more convenient and relaxing, but and we have to cool it a little bit. And we're so happy that you guys are out there, Kelly, doing this, and really for all the right reasons. So we're always pleased to have you on board. Okay.
The site, of course, is consumerreports.org. You don't even have to spell the whole thing out. You can just go to cr.org. Thanks to CARTS, the Corporation for Automated Road Transportation Safety, for helping to make this podcast possible. CARTS is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to safe and high-quality mobility for all. You can find us at smartdrivingcar.com, on Anchor FM, Spotify, TuneIn, Apple, Google, Spreaker, wherever you get your podcasts from. Smart speakers can play us too. You can find my tech reports at techstination.com. I'm Fred Fishkin along with Alan Kornhauser. Thanks for listening or watching. Please continue to stay safe.
Hey, and happy Valentine's Day to everybody. It's coming up next week.